Dear friends, I wish the situation had been such that we could be together in St. Petersburg today, but I'm going to talk to you about a topic which is very close to my heart, and that is about encouraging healthcare workers around the world. And as many of you would know, I have been fortunate to meet a lot of healthcare workers all over the world in my role as president for the World Federation when that was my role. I have also been fortunate to visit your country several times, and today is actually the 40th anniversary since I first time met to Moscow and met people in what was at that time Soviet Union. And I realized that normal people are friends no matter the political situation. But when it comes to why we want to stay where we are, why we stay in our hospitals, why we work, it's useful to look at migration. Why do people leave their work? Why do people leave their countries to live in another place? And then we are talking about pull factors and push factors. And some of these things that push people out of their working place. One is, of course, low salaries. If you don't earn enough to sustain your living, and you know you can earn more money another place, then you might move. Another is that there is poor job satisfaction and motivation. You are not appreciated where you are working and so. And if you don't have supplies so that you can do your work, and we can relate to that as anesthesiologists, because we need a certain amount of medications and things to do our work safely. If it's dangerous to work, if we have outdated equipment or no equipment, and we know that there are better situations otherwise, that might cause us to move. And also that if there is lack of supervision and postgraduate training, we are not allowed to develop career opportunities, then people have a tendency to go somewhere else. I'll go deeper into some of these things in the next minutes. Of course, we have the non-financial incentives, like we need to be able to go to have study leaves, nice to work together, support by our peers and our superiors, and good working conditions. The World Patient Safety Day 3 years ago talked about this, about health worker safety. Because if we are not safe where we are working, and that has many aspects, then of course, how can we do our work? All of us, we need food, water, shelter, and then comes safe situations. And if we are not safe as healthcare workers, our patients will not be safe either, as said by the WHO 3 years ago, and that's still very valid. And safety takes many aspects. We had the Corona era, which I call Corona crazy, where several of us had to figure out how much should we endanger ourselves to save a patient. If we put our own lives at risk, not only the patient you have in front of you, but all your future patients will not be able to benefit from your support. And many had to face lack of equipment when we had the personal protective equipment. How could we do our work? And then there are those ethical issues. Are we servants of our patients, or should we take care ourselves first in order to take care of others? Another is how strong we are, and again, what we saw a lot during Corona, I'll come back to that, is burnout situations. Here it was in New York during the corona that everybody stopped and gave daily thanks and gratitude. They went out to the balconies to give applause and so. But what helps applause if you are dying, if you are at risk of dying? And this is and from my country, from Norway, where they gave extra money to the leaders and to those working in offices. All the bosses got extra money, but we as healthcare workers did not get anything. Does that help our motivation to do that and go that extra mile? And we had that in Greece several years ago. I don't know if you remember that there was a big economical crisis in Greece in 2009, and healthcare workers left the country in the thousands. And then they found out that money is one thing, but also non-money incentives are important. And if you cannot give people extra money, then at least you have to take care of that people feel safe, are supported, and have a good and working environment. Another comes to in war and conflict situations, because you can see the Geneva Convention to the right there, which states that healthcare workers during war times should be protected from being targeted by bullets and things in order to save lives and to save limbs. But unfortunately, in many war situations in this world, as you can see on this ambulance, this Red Cross is seen as a target. So when we try to rescue patients or patients from dying from war injuries, we ourselves are in danger, and that violates all the rules. And of course, it doesn't help our motivations if we feel we are risk dying when we are trying to save our patients. Here is one example from the Doctors Without Borders in Yemen in 2016, where the airstrikes were targeted to this hospital. And of course, we as healthcare workers, we are in a very bad situation when that happens. We have also natural disasters. For instance, here is from Morocco in September, you might remember, big damages, which also damages hospital and healthcare facilities. And like in Nepal in 2015, this is one example. These doctors had to work day and night with a lot of injured and deceased patients, while they did not know how their families were at home, if their house was still standing, and so they couldn't go home. But yet they did everything to save patients and other victims from that earthquake. And that happens in so many countries every day in the world, how we as healthcare workers risk our lives and health in order to help others. Another situation is that when you are in the hospitals and you don't have safe electricity, you don't have safe water, you risk being injured while you are dealing with the equipment. And you, of course, you would know about this case better than I. 2 years ago, when the hospital in far east of Russia was on fire, but then there was a medical team who completed open heart surgeries, while firefighters were battled to contain the serious blaze engulfing the old building's roof. This is really brave healthcare workers, but it's not right that we have to risk our own lives, because then we cannot help others for the future. Hospital fires are well known in all parts of the world. Here is what happened in the United States several years ago. Actually, it was said it happens about 650 times annually in the United States. And they have given advice on how to deal with that in anesthesiology 4 years ago. You can see the common fuels, what they are: alcohol, skin preps, and patient's hair and skin. You have oxidizers like oxygen and nitrous oxide, which makes it more difficult. And you have, of course, ignition sources like lasers and electrosurgical units and so on. The same here 2 years ago in Great Britain, where they have published guidelines for how we should deal with fires and other problems in the operating theater. Very useful reading for all of us. Then, during the COVID-19, we had all the problems with oxygen and explosions. Here it was patients in Turkey that were killed. Here in Maharashtra, state in India, the oxygen in the hospital exploded and killed people. Nashik, it's same in India, several patients were dead. And here in Baghdad, it happens so many places in the world. And here it was in Russia. You will understand better where it is than I will. But then when the ventilator fire was blamed for killing patients during COVID-19. Here in Romania, there was also a fire in the ICU. And Dr. Cătălin Denciu, as you can see here, in order to put out the fire in the bed, you can see to the left, he was severely burned himself and had to be taken to a tertiary burn unit in order to save his life. These are brave colleagues which should not have been put into that situation. And during COVID-19, it was estimated that between 80 and 180,000 healthcare workers died. And the medium scenario was 115,000. It's like a city. And it's so sad that it happens to us. And it's really not encouraging for us to do that. In Indonesia, the mortality was 5 times of the general population. And of course, when you don't have protective equipment, which was a shortage in so many countries in the world, it does not help your motivation. But still, our brave colleagues did go out there. So the patient safety goals during that year when the WHO had healthcare safety, healthcare workers' safety as a primary goal. One was to prevent sharp injuries. That's very relevant for us, of course, needle sticks and cutting. Goal 2, reduce work-related stress and burnout. Also very relevant when we have so hard work to do. Improve use of personal protective equipment. We talked about that. And then violence against healthcare workers, be it in the hospital by insiders or from the outside, as are shown by explosions and bullets and things. And then we have to report and analyze those safety-related incidents that happen to us and try to use those experiences to avoid the same thing to happening in the future. So we are strong, but we need support, and we are ready to do our part in order to help patients, but also to help ourselves. Burnout has got new attention after the pandemic, but it's not a new thing. And it's so sad that it happens to our colleagues, because these are good colleagues trying to do a good job. But if they don't get enough support or so, then they can get this feeling of energy depletion or exhaustion, or they can, after a while, they feel distance from their job, or they are negative, and cynicism is another thing. And of course, that influences the work that we are doing. So this burnout is specifically to phenomena in the occupational context and should not be used in other areas of life. It's approved as an international disease, but not as a medical condition. It's an occupational phenomenon. And what physicians are most burned out, this is from America, but we are probably the same in your country and in my country. Critical intensive care, emergency medicine, and anesthesiology. We are all quite hard at risk for being burned out. And particularly if we are not safe at work and if our work strength, or we are pushed to work too much and too hard. The 7 signs I told you about some of them. Sleeplessness, if you get ill much more frequent than you used to do. You feel depressed or distance from your work. Suddenly you start to get irritated with your co-workers, which you have not been before, but you still work hard, you try to do all your best all the time. But then after a while, you feel just apathic, and as I mentioned, some cynicism could be part of it too. And we should be aware of that when we see it in our colleagues, not only in ourselves, but in our colleagues, and try to reach out if we see something like that, because it can happen to any of us. The risk factors is obviously that work overload. If we work too long or too hard over too long time, but also if you have no control of your working situation. Nobody is seeing what you are doing. You are not awarded for what you are doing. If it's unfair that people are treated in different ways or so, or if you have conflicting values, you are asked to do something for your patient, or that you feel is really not good, the best thing to do, then you are at risk of developing burnout. Here is something from physicians in the United States, and it's interesting. I don't know how this is in Russia, but in my country, this with too many bureaucratic tasks, we are spending too much time on our computer, too little time with our patients is a big thing. Long working hours, of course, we are not respected by others. We don't get money. We have no control, and even patients, if they don't respect us, and so, and that's very, very risky for developing burnout. And you can see here how many of those who were really severely burnout. It's a big, big, big alarm bell for all of us. 47% strong impact on my life. I found that women were more susceptible for being burnout, and we could always wonder why. This special edition of anesthesiology talks much more about all of these aspects in depth, and I recommend you to read it because it's very, very important knowledge for all of us human beings. Although our culture, history, and things are different, but we are the same. So what is valid for these people is valid for me, and I would think it's valid for you as well. We in the WFSA have been very much aware on this well-being, and we have published it. You can find it in the WFSA website, and maybe it's possible to translate it into Russian as well. As you can see here, it's already in English, Chinese, Spanish, and Portuguese. I think not in Russian yet, but it's valid for you too. And this is from my department, because the safety culture, how we deal with each other at work, how we are kind to each other, if we are open and can speak freely without being afraid that what I say to you will backfire on me, if we can trust each other, if we are honest, and if we just remember that all of us can come into problems if the situation is there. Even good colleagues can make mistakes, for instance. So one day it's me, another day it's you, and if we can try to support each other and not blame each other, it will be better for our patients, it will be better for ourselves. And to do that, it all comes from the top. It's the leaders. They are the ones who influence the whole atmosphere in a department or an institution. If you have good, compassionate people on the top who appreciate the importance of taking care of each other, support each other, then it's much more likely that it will go through the whole organization, even to the patients at the bottom. We have to support each other. And this is what was said in this webinar from United Kingdom, that compassionate leadership is a shortcut to good outcomes for clinicians and patients alike. I will talk a little bit more about that. Because what she said is that rather than focusing on fixing the worker, we should fix the workplace and create an organization that support each other and protect all its employees from within, not bullying. We are strong. We are doing so many good things as clinicians, but we need the support from our bosses and our superiors in order to perform at our best. So the solutions should be focused on the leaders to take care of ourselves. How can we learn to take care of ourselves and not demand too much? Because if you demand too much and the resources you are given do not balance, it does not help. And that will multiply the investments that you make, and it will, your department will do much better. Then again, adverse events, because as mentioned, that happens to all of us at some point. We will make mistakes, we will harm patients, even we are there not to harm patients. What most colleagues who have been into that situation, what they say is that they need support from their colleagues. And that's so important for us to move on and to learn from what we are doing wrong. You can see here, I'm sure that many of you, or even all of you who are listening, have made mistakes and have harmed patients. I certainly have. And then if you are not helped to deal with that in a good way, you can have sleep disturbances, fatigue, you have this anger, you feel guilt, fear, you cannot sleep, doubt yourself. After a while, you might have difficulties to concentrate and so. Then you get irritable and you cannot do your work as you should. I have seen in my setting that many physicians who have been involved in a patient's death after a mistake, they have left the hospital. And that does not help any future patients. So the thing is that if we care for each other, it's the same as if we care for patients. And that's what they said. They have made in United Kingdom some recommendations how we can support doctors and medical students to care, and that's to care for patients. So the compassionate leadership should be the foundation on every leader, and to try to have equity, equality, diversity, and inclusion. All of us should be part of the same family, and that's how we can help each other. We need to have some control over our own life, and not to be pushed too far with our values. If I feel this is important for me as a human being to deal with others, if I have to compromise all that time, it's not good. I need to belong. I need to be part of my team. And then also that I feel that the workload is manageable. I am supported by my bosses. I am able to learn more, to develop myself professionally and scientifically. That's so important for all of us. And that's interesting what they did here, because here they decided to take all the nurses off one day and they had a support program which they had everybody learned how to take care of each other. And they realized that they saved a lot of money in that institution just to empower the nurses to take care of each other. It's impressive. Towards the end, I'm talking a little bit more about how to take care of ourselves. And this is about all the work we do at night, because we as anesthesiologists, of course we have to work at night. But do we have to do all the work we do at night? Or can some of it be taken other times of the day? Because as human beings, we are daytime creatures. You can see that on the body clock. That's physiological, our alertness. You can see at the middle of the night, we are not very alert and the risk of accident increases. And our performance decreases at night. So we do better at daytime. And those who work too much at night, it involves risk of metabolic syndrome, diabetes, fat imbalance, and the artificial light reduces secretion of melatonin, and in women increases secretion of estrogen. And it has been shown so many studies that it impacts our health. And we are, as I said, we are physiological daytime creatures. And for adjustment to night work, 75% show no evidence of adjustment whatsoever. I'm probably one of them. And here, these are old tests, but our physiology has not changed. If we are fatigued, intubation is lower, respirator test results lower, we interpret X-ray images more often incorrect, we cannot read ECGs, and more dural puncture during epidurals. So we don't perform as well as we should. So if we are able to organize ourselves in our hospitals to reduce night work, there will be fewer complications and lower costs. Doctors and other staff will have improved quality of life, and we will be able to work better and more, and we will give higher quality of training and teaching to our trainees. So the quality of care improves if we can reduce night work. And in Finland, they have done very interesting work on that, and I'll be happy to share more of that later. It's a win-win-win situation. So as I'm approaching the end here, encouraging healthcare workers around the world. Our motivation is to help people. We became doctors because we want to help. But in order to do that, we must be able to have a safe working environment. That goes for so many aspects. We need equipment so we can do our work. We need education and to share experiences, meet each other, teamwork, solidarity. We are all in this boat together. A decent salary, of course, we need to have enough to live, appreciation and respect. And of course, we need rest, food, and sleep. And at the last seconds, what motivates me? I'd like to say I'm motivated so much about all the patients I meet. All those people that we are able to help, and they put their lives in our hands, in my hands. What a special thing that they do. How fortunate we are to get that confidence from others. In the organizational work, what helps me also is that I believe that we can make a better situation for all those patients across the world. And I think that when we can meet and discuss important aspects like that across borderlines, no matter of the political situation or whatever it is. It makes the whole world a better and safer place to be. And I would like to quote a taxi driver I met. He said we should give all the weapons in the world to the politicians. They can kill each other and the rest of us can live in peace. We can travel, we can meet each other and discuss all those important scientific and human parts of life. In the basic, we are all the same. What we need in our lives is food, water, shelter, safety, love, and respect. And by that, I say thank you very much for listening to me. And next year, it will be the World Congress in Singapore. Thank you.